Go. All right. Yeah, I was going to talk about my first jobs. Of course, I'd worked with Bertzel on different things, a cousin. He was 13 years older than me. He taught me a lot of things, but my first hard job, I didn't know the man named John Demick. I knew his brother Ed, but I was there at the house and John drove in and talking to Dad, and I just out there and walked up, and Dad turned to me and he said, "Son, do you want to work for John?" Well, I guess I was 12 years old, I think. It had to be. It's because when I was 13, I went to work for John Green. But he said, I own tractors, on steel, and it just rides so rough. I just can't stand it. My boys is both gone. And I've got to get that place plowed down here. The love lady, and I knew where that was, just a mile and a half south of our house. And there was J&J Implement right north side of the creek. This was just south of Red Rock Creek. He said, "I'll come and pick you up. I'll have lunch there. I'll service everything. I'll crank the tractor." It was long before we had self-starters on them. Well, I guess you say we did have. You started them yourself. And anyway, he came and got me and had about 100 acres to plow. And I was very dedicated to trying to do a good job. And got it all plowed. I don't know how many days, 3 or 4, at least 400 acres. Old W30 to 314 plow. Cut 3.5 feet each time you went around. But up in the middle of the morning, John was sitting there in the field and Peggy's car was gone. But I went on around. When I come back around, well, there he sat. He stopped me. He had me a bottle of pop and a candy bar about mid-morning. And then at noon, he stopped me. Had me a good lunch, and while I was eating, why, he's fueled the tractor, serviced everything, and then cranked it the way I went till quitting time. And about mid-afternoon, he disappeared again. Come back around, there he sat with me a bottle of pop and a candy bar. Man, that was already the best pay I'd ever had. Nobody else had ever done that. Anyway, he got done and he took me home, and now he said, "You come to Perry Saturday, I'll be in the Palace Club." Well, I didn't even know where it was or what it meant, Palace Club. So I went in and asked Dad, or when he come in, what John had told me. Oh, he said, "Son, his brother-in-law runs that. It's a pool hall, is all it is." Well, I'd never been in a pool hall. So folks and us kids went to town on Saturday. Dad walked me around. It was on the east side of the square in Perry. We went in, or Dad, we didn't. Dad stayed out on the sidewalk. Went into a pool hall, and there was some guys that sat back there at the table. Oh, some more shooting pool and things, but there sat John at a domino table. I walked up to him. I was kind of scared. I'd never been in a place like that. He grabbed me by the arm and boy, he went to bragging on me. Best hired hand, oh my goodness. Made me stand 10 feet tall. Said, come on, let's go up the counter. Went up there and he just picked up, he used to have counter checks. Every bank around would leave checks in every business. And he wrote me out a check, said, turned it over, handed it to me and said, turn it over and sign it, he'll give you the money. Oh, I don't remember what he paid me. Maybe $3, $4. I think wages in was $3 a day. But it was the most money I'd ever had in my pocket at one time. Oh man, I come out and Dad was standing out there. Well, son, oh Dad, yeah, man, I showed him how much money I had. Oh, I felt 10 feet tall. But then the next summer, when John and Paul Green done Dad's thrashing, we still bound grain back there some. Dad Walt, his brother, had bought a combine together in '37. But we still run the binder and bound grain and shocked it. Had to thrash it, all your oats and generally what barley you had. And anyway, it was the start of the war had started by then, I guess, World War II. And Dad went and talked to John about thrashing. He said, Hans, they can't hire no hands. He said, if you furnish a man, I'll thrash for you. Well, Dad said, I'll go into Red Rock and get an Indian. John said, I wish you luck. I should have told Dad something. But in Red Rock, there wasn't no Indians, nobody to hire. Come back, he said, John, this is all I got. He's 13. Well, that's the best that showed up. Just take him home and get his clothes and bring him back. He can stay here. Well, man alive, I thought that was big time. So we did. That took me well the next morning. But, well, it started with him and his brother Paul and me. And John was handling the grain and Paul had a little boy. He wasn't 6. Oh, no, he wasn't near 6. He was awful small. Little Paul, we called him. And anyway, he'd guide the tractor down the rows of shocks, and Paul had sleds. And shove the shocks over on the sled, and throw a few bundles on, and pull up there. And I was there at the machine. We'd let the deal down to feed the bundles in. And I was the only one at the machine. If it went wrong, they said, just go kill the tractor. So that's how we started thrashing. But then an Indian showed up with a bundle wagon, and pretty soon another one. Then they put me with old Moses Harry-Gary, an old Indian, hard of hearing. So we pitched bundles together. And we made a crew. We had, I think 4 bundle wagons. That was a lot more grain coming into the machine than what we had. But I done that for, well, several years. Glenn got old enough, and then he and I run a bundle wagon. But after we got them men and teams, John had, 5 or 6, 7 cows we was milking. We'd get up before daylight, go to the barn, and he'd light a lantern for light. And milk them old cows, and then have the teams, horses all in and fed, and then go to the house and eat breakfast. While we was eating, the horses was eating. Of course, turned the cows back out to pasture. Eat a good breakfast that way. And then go out and harness the teams. And have them hooking them up to the wagons, bundle wagons, at the time the other people, mostly Indians, got there. And them Indians had never changed clothes all week and sweat, and they put so much salt on their food. You go in and eat. I didn't want no salt on mine. They'd just pour the salt on there. Then their sweat would turn their shirts white with salt. Oh, then put it back on the next morning after that dried. It never looked to me like it'd be comfortable. But anyway, that was my start in the working world. Then I done different things. Worked, plowed for Bob Carpenter. Then up in high school, Jerry Pruiking, that had J&J Implement, just north of Red Rock Creek, his youngest son, Milton, and I was in high school together. He went to Bowden School, just 3 miles south of Longview. So, anyway, Milton and I, Jerry had a lot of alfalfa there. And we would, of course, have to bale that with an old, you had to tie the bales yourself. Oh man, that was dirty work. But we hauled hay, a lot of them built, and I hauled about all that hay in. And then when I was between my junior and senior year in high school, I believe it was, Jerry hired me as, well, he got in first, a carload of combines at Red Rock, the old pull type. And Arnold, his son, and I, oldest son, he was Maureen's age, 3 years older than me. But he was 4F and couldn't go to service. Anyway, we unloaded them combines. He knew how, I didn't, but he directed me. We got them off and got them to the shop, and then we had to assemble them. So I learned a lot. Then in summertime, if we'd have a lull, I'd go down there and help Jerry and make a little money. Then when I got out of high school, why, Henry Stackhouse had started plowing. He lived just north of us, that quarter. And he had a heart attack, just very mild one, had to have been. But anyway, he come to me that next Sunday and wanted to know if he could rent his farm to me. Oh man, that made me feel awful big. So then Henry hauled wheat for us anyway and wouldn't take any pay. So Dad made me give him, instead of 1/3 of the wheat, 2/5 of the wheat to pay for his salary. And that went on. I farmed his place for 13 years. But Glenn always said he took a sabbatical. After 13 years, he went back to farming. Bought him a tractor. His son, Bill, was up big enough. Dad started Bill to running the tractor on the combine when I was in Korea. Well, that first summer, Doc had asthma, or Laverne, we called him Butch, and then when he got to be a doctor, he was Doc. I never did call him Laverne. Anyway, he had asthma and he couldn't. And Glenn was home from, he was up in college, but, oh man. So Dad broke Bill Stackhouse into driving the tractor on the combine. So he was, basically, we hired him after I got home to drive tractors for us, in fact. But Bill was quite a Bill. Oh, anyway, then, I farmed until, well, in January of 52, well, Betty and I got married November the 17th of 51. Now, that's another whole different story about our courtship. Maybe we better have a lull.